Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. Today, we're learning about the three people in history whose prayers were answered immediately. Can you imagine if you were one of those people? Wouldn't that be lovely? There were three people in history documented in the Torah whose prayers were answered immediately as they finished their prayer. And one of them actually was answered before he finished his prayer. Why would that be? What was it about their prayer? That must have been, or maybe about them, that must have been so special that God responds to their prayers so fast. Wouldn't it be lovely if God answered our prayers like that? Could have watched what you pray for, right? So, who are these people? One of them, good morning to Fran and to Stacy and to Amy and to those that are with us live and later, those that are local and those that are virtual all over the world. So, one of those people was King. Well, let's start in chronological order. Forget it. I'm starting with Moses. Moses was one who prayed to God that there should befall a special death upon those who rebelled against him. Do you remember the story of Korach? If you remember the story of Korach, what happened was, in his case, the Torah will tell us that Moses warned the rebellion of Korach that if they don't stop, there's going to be a calamity.
He said special death.
Yeah, there's a unique death. That's exactly what he said.
The ground opened up.
The ground opened up. He said, if you won't die a special death, a unique death, then you'll know that I'm not telling the truth. Here it is. If you want to see that, you'll see it right here on page 927. In the you'll see it in verse 920, page 927 in the blue Chumash. It goes like this.
927.
Top of the page. If these men die as all men die, and the fate of all men shall be visited upon them, then God has not sent me. In other words, if they die a normal death, I'm a liar. Only if they die a special death, well, you know that I'm telling the truth. But if God creates a new creation, namely that the earth opens its mouth, he's getting specific, swallows them and all that is theirs, and they descend alive into the grave, you will know that these men have provoked God, and that I have spoken only on his authority. This is basically a Florida sinkhole. If God created the earth with the potential to open its mouth, let this potential be manifest now. If he did not, let him create it anew. I mean, this is a tall order he's putting in there, right? He's like, if it's on the menu, I'm ordering it now. If it's not on the menu, then it should be on the menu, right? As soon as he finished speaking, look at these amazing words. As soon as he finished speaking all these words, the earth beneath them split open. And now you know the rest of the story.
No, not the rest of it, because the sons.
Okay, there's more to the story. But that's the first of three. Moses, look, it says, as soon as he finished praying, bam, the earth opens up. How's that for good timing? There was a second person. That's in today's Torah portion. But let me get to the second one first. He's actually the first one in chronological order. But let's go for dramatic effect. We're going to keep him for last. Okay? The second one is actually not in the written Torah. It's in the it's not in the Torah. It's in the prophets. It is in the book. It's actually the writings, Tanakh, the third part of the Tanakh. The writings. It's in the book of Chronicles, Divrei Hayomim, part 2. Have it here. Be nice. I think I do. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Chronicles, this is the story of Solomon. Yeah. It's going to be chapter 7, verse 1. Here we go. Here it goes. So Chronicles tells us that David had wanted to build the Holy Temple, but he couldn't. Why couldn't he? Because God didn't allow David to build the Holy Temple. Why did David was not allowed to build the Holy Temple? Because he had killed people. He had killed people in war. He had to fight battles. War is necessary. but he wasn't ready. He wasn't the right one to build the house of life. Was Solomon, whose name Shlomo means shalom, peace. He only had peace because his father was strong. Because remember, peace is not the product of weakness. Peace is the product of strength. Gee, I think I'm allergic to this book. Must have not been opened in a while. So Chronicles 2. This is off the beaten track. Okay, so I'll just do this quickly so I don't have to get my hay fever. Here goes. Now when Solomon had made an end of praying, he now has built the temple and he's waiting for the divine presence to enter. As soon as he finished when Solomon had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering, the sacrifices, and the glory of God filled the house. Very nice. So that's what happened. As soon as he finished the prayer, Solomon, the second of two so far, to finish his prayer, the fire descends from heaven, and it's awesome. And everybody's like, wow, that's amazing. Right? Who was the third one? That's in today's Torah portion. Let's take a look on page 139. Again, in chronological order, Eliezer comes before Moses and before Solomon. Eliezer lived about 3,600 years ago. And the verse tells us like this. What happened was that after the Torah portion begins today with the death of Sarah. It's called the life of Sarah because the righteous never die. They live on through their progeny. So the portion begins with the burial of Sarah and how Abraham purchases for her a burial plot in what is today the most hotly contested piece of real estate on planet Earth. Even though the title deed is in today's Torah portion, he buys for her the land at Hebron, right? Hebron. In fact, this Shabbos, every year on this Shabbos, there's a massive Shabbat that takes place in Hebron at the tomb of the patriarchs and the matriarchs, where thousands of Jews from all over Israel come together and they read this Torah portion, which is the title deed of the land of Israel. Now, if you treat the title deed like garbage, like toilet paper, then most people won't respect it. But if you treat it like gold, like a Torah, right, you respect the Torah and you observe the Torah, then the nations of the world will also respect us. Important note to bear in mind. Don't tell the UN that the land is ours because we suffered so much in the Holocaust. Don't tell them that the land is ours because we have great inventions. We invented Intel and we invented the pill cam. They couldn't care less. Tell them that the land is ours because God gave it to us. There's no other argument that will bear water. And if you don't believe it, then surely they won't believe it. Anyways, back to the story. So that's today's Torah portion. It opens up. Abraham purchases the land of Hebron. The guy wants to give it to him for free. Abraham says, thank you, but no thank you. No thanks. I'll pay full top dollar for it. And that's what happens. Okay. After that, Sarah is now deceased. Abraham realizes that his son Isaac needs to get married. So what does he do? He asks his loyal butler or his governor of his household, Eliezer, to go out and find him a wife for Eliezer. What does he do? Where are you going to find a wife? He sends him from Beersheba in the south of Israel. He sends him across the Euphrates. You know how far that is? He sends him over back to Iraq, where he comes from, to a cousin, and he tells him to find from his own family there cousin for Eliezer. So Eliezer travels over there. It's a 17-day journey by camel. I never did the journey by camel, but if you go by plane, I imagine it's a lot less. Even though politically speaking, I don't believe there's any direct flights from Beersheba to Baghdad. But maybe one day soon. So he went this way, 17 days. It took him 1 day. He eventually tells the story later on. He says, I left today and I arrived today. So he experienced something called Kfitzas Haderech, which is the Kfitzas, which is the jumping of the journey. It's like a miraculous thing that happens sometimes. In fact, my wife's grandfather, Rabbi Krinsky, tells a story of how he would drive the Rebbe to and from the Ohel. Right? Sometimes the Rebbe would go on a Friday afternoon. Now, the Rebbe would often stay there many hours. And one time the Rebbe had to come back. It was like very, very close to Shabbos. And if you know Brooklyn traffic, Queens traffic, it ain't pretty. So he was driving and he was like, I don't know how I'm going to get back in time for Shabbos. So he tells a story that he turned, from the Ohel, he turned from Francis Lewis Boulevard or Springfield Boulevard, right by the Ohel in Queens. He turns, and he's on Eastern Parkway. He's in Brooklyn. He's in Eastern Parkway.
He made a wrong turn.
He doesn't know what happened, but he arrived. He made it back in time. It's a good story. Next time, remember, he would visit his father and father-in-law. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So here goes. In fact, a lady in our community told us last night She's going through a very, very difficult time. She says that every time she goes to the Ohel, she experiences miracles. She said that they've been praying for something very specific, and it happened, and then there was a problem, and they went again, and bam. So you should go to the Ohel. It's a very important thing. Okay, good. So back to the story. So Eliezer now is traveling to Baghdad, to Iraq, and he's looking for a wife, and he makes a prayer to God. What does he pray to God? Abraham makes him swear that he's not going to mess up, right? That was the whole deal here in the second aliyah. Then comes the third aliyah. Here goes. Page 139. The servant then took 10 of his master's camels, which were distinguishable from camels belonging to other people, by the fact that Abraham always muzzled them. Muzzled. You know what muzzles are?
Sure.
To prevent them from grazing in other people's fields, and a number of men with him. And he set out that same day, that's what I was referring to, with a document listing all of his master's wealth and affirming its transfer to Isaac in his hands. So basically, Isaac was going to be very wealthy. There was a document, a transfer deed of all of Abraham's wealth to Isaac, basically as some form of a dowry. He rose up and he made his way to Aram Naharaim, which is the Aram of the two rivers between the Tigris and the Euphrates, to Haran, the city where Nahor, Abraham's brother, had settled. Remember, Abraham had left Iraq when we first met him at the beginning of Lech Lecha, but Nahor stayed there. Although Nahor had not accompanied Terach and Avram when they moved to Haran from Ur, he later followed them there. Okay, as he arrived, Eliezer made the camels kneel outside the city near a well of water at evening time when the women go out to draw water. And he said, he's making a prayer now. Oh God, God of my master Abraham, arrange events for me this day such that you grant a favor to my master Abraham. Here I stand by the spring of water, and the daughters of townsmen are coming out to draw water. It's very interesting. You know, all of our matriarchs met their husbands at the bar. That's how they met him. It was always at the water fountain. There's something about the bar, right? Okay, so let it be. This is the prayer he's making, that the maiden to whom I say, please tilt your pitcher so that I may drink. If I ask a maiden to tilt her pitcher so that I may drink, and she replies, drink, and I will also give water to your men and camels. I mean, that's quite a response. You want to drink? You want a sip of water? You know what? Not just you. I'll give all your men and all your camels. You know how much camels drink? Now, I never gave a camel to drink, but from what I understand, they drink a lot more than a human being. There's all those storage tanks over there. There's a lot going on over there. So if you're going to give to one camel, that's like a lot of work. You're going to give 10 camels. I mean, that's a serious, like a swimming pool worth of water, right? 2 humps. Yeah, dromedaris.
Dromedary is 1 hump.
Dromedari is 1 hump. What's a 2-hump camel?
Yeah,
Just a camel. A lot of water, right? He's got 2 tanks. It's like a dual engine capacity.
Right.
Okay, so the one that I asked to give me water, and she says, not only will I give you water, I'll give your men and your camels. She will be the fitting match. That's the one that I'll know you have designated for your servant Isaac. So he puts like a very specific test. She will be a fitting match because her demonstration of considerateness. Is that a word? Considerateness and generosity will prove that she's worthy of becoming a part of Abraham's household. Let her be, by the way, from his family. She's got to be from the family. So the girl that I asked has got to be from the family. That's a condition. Because remember, that was Abraham's oath. He made him swear.
It's his niece.
It's got to have to be a niece, right? And the suitable companion for Isaac. For thus I will know through her that you have acted kindly with my master. Now that's a pretty intense prayer he made. Very specific. Right? I'm not going to lift a finger. All I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a drink. And you're going to send me the girl from the right family, and she's going to say this. Right? I mean, that's pretty intense. Now what happens? He had not yet finished speaking to God when Rebecca came out. Skip the parentheses. She had been born to Bethuel. Yeah, we're going to skip that part.
That's weird. That's weird.
She had been born to Bethuel, the youngest son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother, Nahor. So in other words, she was the granddaughter of Nahor. She was the great niece of Abraham. Her pitcher was on her shoulder. The maiden was of a beautiful appearance, a virgin who no man had known. She went down to the spring. I'm doing the bold face. She filled the pitcher and came back. So she's filling a pitcher, minding her own business. 141, the servant ran towards her and he said, if you would, let me sip a little water from your pitcher. She said, drink, sir, and quickly lowered her pitcher from her shoulder onto her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him to drink, she said, let me draw water for your men and your camels too, until they have drunk their fill. Ooh. She quickly emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran to the well again to draw water, and she drew water for all of his men and camels. The men wondered about her, silently to know whether or not God had made his journey successful. When the camels had drunk their fill, the man took a gold nose ring weighing a beka and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 gold shekels. He said, "Whose daughter are you? If you would tell me if there is room in your father's house for us to spend the night." She said to him, "I'm the daughter of Besuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. I'm Abraham's great niece." She then said, "We have plenty of straw and fodder as well as a place to spend many nights." The man bowed his head and prostrated himself to God. Pretty cool story. Hey? Well. He prayed. What's well?
That's where they got the water.
The water from the well, right?
No.
No, but it's a pretty cool story. Like Moses and like
2-year-old.
and well, leave that part out. That's a different topic. It's not even on a topic today. We'll talk about it another time. But Moses, God responds to him right away. Solomon, God responds to him right away. And now Eliezer, God responds to him not right away, but before he finishes prayer. What's up with all these prayers, and what can we learn about our lives and our prayers from this story?
True story, by the way, because I remember.
You were there?
Yes, I remember.
You know, we have a daughter, Rivka, and she's the designated water carrier in the family.
Ah,
Whenever we ask her for a drink, we ask her if she's going to give all the camels a drink. She's very generous with the water pouring. Okay, so the question we have to ask ourselves is, why is this? Why would it be that God would have answered all these prayers so quickly? The Rebbe responds and explains that it's not the people that were praying as much as the reason for which they were praying that is similar in all 3 instances. These were very different people. I mean, King Solomon is a king, Moses is a Rebbe, and Eliezer is a Gentile. I mean, he's not Jewish. So like what? It wasn't like the people that had that much in common, right? We're talking over here about, we have a Brazilian online. Shalom. Good. And Andy, good to see you. So what is it that the 3 had in common? The Rebbe explains that each one of them were praying for the same thing in terms of the purpose of existence, the purpose of creation. Each one of them was trying to draw the divine presence into this world. The presence of God into this world, just like we do on a Friday night. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. What do we say? Come, my beloved, to greet the bride. We're on Shabbos. What happens is a divine presence comes into this world, and that's the reason why we're not allowed to do any labor on Shabbos. We're not allowed to do any work on Shabbos, not because God is trying to control us, but because you're in the presence of the King. Imagine if the President of the United States walked into this room right now, and you're like, "Excuse me, sir, I'm just busy. I got to send an email." You're disrespectful. President of the United States is here. Show some dignity. Show some respect, right? In exactly the same way, when the divine presence comes to this world, you're not allowed to be doing something else. That's why you're not allowed to be working, you're not allowed to be doing labor. You need to be focused on your faith and your family and your friends, right? Along those same lines, what these 3 were doing is that they were bringing the divine presence in this world. How are they doing that? Let's start off with King Solomon. King Solomon was building the Holy Temple. I mean, this is pretty clear. He was building the Holy Temple, and he was asking for the divine presence to come down into this world. It was pretty obvious. He said, which means like this: may the pleasantness of God be upon us, and may the effort of our hands be blessed to retain the dwelling of God. Effectively, you would say, may God bless the work of our hands. We built a house and we want God to move into this house. So they were praying that God should move into their house. That's what King Solomon was doing, to become a permanent resting place in this world for God Almighty. Now, by the way, you can see the manifestation of God Almighty in this world in the Holy Temple. How do you see that? There was the manifestation of infinity inside of the Holy Temple. Remember, God is Almighty, God is infinite. Only in the Holy Temple, nowhere else in the world. How is that apparent? Because only inside of the Holy Temple was there the paradox of opposites. The paradox of opposites. Now, in a world that is finite, you're either blue or black, you're yellow or green, you're up or down, you're left or right, you're a Democrat or Republican, but you're defined in a world which is defined, right? Which is limited. But in a world which is unlimited, in a God who's infinite, there is no limitation. Paradox can coexist, right? So you can be present and not present at the same time. That's why the Torah, by the way, which is so filled with arguments in the Talmud, it's not that one is right and one is wrong. They're both right, because these are the wisdom of the living God, right? These and those are both expressions of the living God. But which one is it? Both. It's just that you, as a human being, as a mortal, are defined. You're going to pick one. But when you're learning the wisdom of God infinity, of God unlimited, you realize that the paradox is not a problem, right? Inside of the Holy Temple, what happens is measurements, right? Inside of the Holy of Holies, there was like 20 cubits from one wall to the other wall inside of the Holy of Holies. But then you measured from the wall to the side of the ark. Remember, the Ark of the Covenant was inside of the Holy of Holies. You measure from the wall to the side of the ark, 10 cubits, the other wall to the other side of the ark, 10 cubits. You're like, which means the ark's not there, right? But then you measure the ark and it's 2.5 cubits. And you're like, 1 second. Is it here or is it not here? Is it taking your space or is it not taking your space? The answer is it's both, because this is the manifestation of infinity, where God is present in this room. It's an amazing experience. That's why only the high priest goes in there once a year on Yom Kippur. High priest, holiest person, holiest place, holiest day, right? Yom Kippur, the high priest in that place, right? So what happens is this place is the manifestation of infinity. That's what King Solomon was praying for. He was praying for the divine presence to rest in this world, which is the purpose of creation. Let's move on to the next one, Moses. What is Moses doing? He was praying not that the divine presence should dwell in physical space. He was praying the divine presence should dwell within people. What was the rebellion against Moses all about? Korach rebelled against Moses. Ki kol ha'ida kulam kedoshim. For the entire congregation is holy. We all were at Mount Sinai. Why do you think that you guys are better than the rest of us? Moses, you think you're a prophet. Aaron, you think you're the high priest. We're all the same. We're all the same holy. They were denying the fact that God chooses certain people to rest within them, the divine presence, divine spirit. And Moses was fighting a battle, which was actually personal, because this was like an attack on him personally, right? Where they were fighting a battle against Moses to say that Moses was not chosen by God. We're all chosen by God. That's what they were saying. So now Moses needs to prove that God chooses to dwell in certain people, whereas Solomon was bringing the divine presence to space. Moses was bringing the divine presence into person, right? Got that so far? So both of them are along the same lines, and therefore both of them were answered right away, says the Rebbe. Because this is the purpose of existence, the purpose of creation. The intention of God in this world is a game of hide and seek, for us to be able to uncover, to discover the presence of God everywhere, and to uncover it in every single place. So we've got to bring God's presence into this world everywhere. And that's why, by the way, when you have a house, you build a house. Okay, so you build a house. What do you do in a house? You put up nice, window treatments and chandeliers, and you do nice stuff, right? You try to make it pretty, right? You decorate your kitchen. But the ultimate purpose of it all is to make not a house, but a home. A home for who? A home for your family. Douglas from Ohio, welcome. A home for your family and a home for your faith. When you can make your kitchen consistent with the laws of Torah, separating the milk and the meat, that you wait 6 hours after meat, that you wait 1 hour after milk, that my daughter came home from school yesterday and she said, for lunch I had Parmesan cheese, 6-hour cheese, so I have to wait another 20 minutes before I can have the schnitzel for dinner. This is a mindset, it's a consciousness, it's an awareness. Then my digestive system, my kitchen is a place where God is present, right? You look at that, it's amazing. What a beautiful way to live your life, where God is a reality in your kitchen, right? And the same thing in your dining room. What do you use your dining room table for? Think about this. What happens on your dining room table? Only food? What about Torah conversation? Do you inspire your grandchildren around your dining room table? Or is it only about the Eagles and the Eagles and the Jets and the Dolphins, right? Is that the entirety of the conversation? If you had to give an aggregate on what level of conversation happens at your dining room table, is it all about Trump? Is it all about, wars? Or is there an elevated conversation at your kitchen table? That this is a place of inspiration. This is a place where Hashem is welcome. Oh, and what about your television? I asked our handyman here to move a video screen from one office here to the other office. And he looks at me, but Rabbi, TV, he's Russian. He's like, what about the TV wires? I couldn't understand what he's talking about. The TV, he wanted to know if the TV wires are there. I said, no. That's how I realized what he was talking about. This is not a TV. It doesn't play like television. This just plays, videos that we put into it. only select content that we put onto it. This is not subject to whatever is going on in Netflix studios or in Hollywood. This is coming out of here. We control what goes on this television, right? So what happens on your television? Is your television a place of like depravity and human weakness and like the Jerry Springer show? Is that what's on your television? What's in your wallet, right? So
How do you know about Jerry Springer?
I heard of him. He's Jewish. Or do you show on your television Rebbe videos, gem videos, videos of inspiration, videos of wisdom and ideology and things that bring you closer to your family, closer to your friends, closer to your God, right? What goes on? So we've got to create a home for God in all these places. This is the purpose of existence. Solomon was one that prayed for us in space. Moses was one that prayed for us in person. And Eliezer prayed that the divine presence. Ooh, Australia. Yvonne, welcome. Which part of Australia are you in? Cool. I love this worldwide wisdom. It's amazing. We're here in Palm Beach Gardens and we're like shining a light all over the world. We're like illuminating the internet here. We're illuminating YouTube, right? We're raising the bar in YouTube, right? It's amazing. Love it. Rebecca, Shalom Rabbi, thanks for your lectures. May God bring the hostages to their homes. Yes, and that's all the prayers for his righteous people. You're in Melbourne, Australia. I got my rabbinical degree in Melbourne, Australia on Inkerman and what was the name of that road? At Kimberley Center is where I got my rabbinical degree. Okay. Regards. So, what Eliezer did is very special. Eliezer was the first one to create the first matchmaker in heaven. Sorry, the first matchmaker in the world. Eliezer was the first matchmaker in the world. What does that mean? He made the first shidduch. The first yenta. You know yenta, the matchmaker? Leave that part out. Don't get stuck in the details, my friend. You've got to be able to compartmentalize. You know what I mean? You got to get past. If there's part of the story that doesn't jive with you. So what you do is you put it in a little box, and you say, "I'll get to that another time." But that doesn't mean you have to forget the rest of the story. You gotta see the bigger picture. Stay in the helicopter, right? Anyways, so back to the story. Eliezer is the first one to make a shidduch in the Torah. He brings Eliezer and Rivka together. Who's Eliezer and Rivka? Eliezer is this righteous Jewish boy, the first Jew born as a Jew. Abraham became a Jew, remember, but Yitzchak is born, the first one born as a Jew, right? He's born to elderly parents through miraculous circumstances. He was actually offered as an offering upon the altar, right? In the end of last week's Torah portion. So he actually had the sanctity of an offering, which means that he was not allowed to leave the land of Israel. He had to stay inside of the confines of the land of Israel, just like the borders of the laws that pertain to animal offerings. And who's he marrying? He's marrying this like rose amongst the thorns. She's this girl that's growing up in a pagan, adulterous society out there in Iraq. They're steeped in idolatry, and he's bringing this angel, this like Beauty and the Beast together. Not that she's the beast, God forbid, but she's coming from a place of depravity. And he manages to broker this deal together, which is essentially a combination of heaven and earth.
Did she get converted to Judaism?
Remember, before the Torah was given, there was no conversion. It was an opt-in, opt-out system. If you subscribe to monotheism, you became a Jew. If you abandoned monotheism, then you were not a Jew. That's why Yishmael, all the Arabs are not Jewish, because they moved away from Abraham's legacy. Same thing with Esau, with all the Christians. They moved away from Abraham's legacy. Otherwise, everybody would be Jewish today.
Well, they didn't bow down to idols.
Whatever, that's a different topic. I don't want to digress with that, but suffice it to say that to answer your question, is that there was no specific conversion process like there was after the Torah was given, when Judaism became genetic, and you had to go through a greater process in order to become a Jew. So what happens here with Eliezer and his brokering of this deal is that he's bringing heaven and earth together in a shidduch. Now remember, what you're doing in a marriage, is effectively creating a deal between heaven and earth. You're building a home in this world. You know, when the bride circles the groom 7 times under the chuppah, she is creating a fortress around him so that the two of them will be able to create a sanctified entity, an edifice, an eternal edifice. a place which is going to be a holy place. They're creating their own home. They're no longer subject to their parents or their parents-in-law or their brothers or anybody else. Now they're creating their own home with this wall around it. Where here, the purpose of the shidduch is in order to bring God's presence into this world. An amazing story I want to share with you is that I walked into a shiva house in the community here a few years ago. It was about a year before COVID, 2019. I walked into a shiva house and I see one of my members over there who I know is going through infertility. And I asked the husband, I said, "No, how's it going?" And he says, we're giving up. So I looked at him and I said, words that I was surprised came out of my mouth. I said, "My wife Hannah is coming in a few minutes. Have your wife talk to Hannah. You'll have a baby." And then I caught myself. I'm like, whoa. He looks at me like a little askance. I'm like, yeah. Have your wife talk to Hannah. You'll have a baby. What I meant to say was, what I was trying to say was that Hannah walked in a few minutes later, spoke to the wife, and she told him about the mitzvah of mikvah, which is family purity. The mitzvah of mikvah is a mitzvah which means that a woman who's menstruating is not allowed to be physical with her husband. You can't even touch, not even a finger touch. So for the 5 days of menstruation and 7 days of cleanliness to follow, she's got to be separate from her husband, living in the same house and everything, but they just don't touch. And after those 12 days, she goes to the mikvah, and now she's allowed to be together with her husband. She's not physically dirty, but just spiritually, she's impure until she goes to the mikvah, and she's spiritually purified. And now they're ready to have a child. The Torah tells us that you do this mitzvah. It takes 3 to have a child. It takes mother and father to make the body, but it takes God to infuse the soul. So Hannah tells him about the story, and the girl, the wife, does it. Obviously it takes 2. You need the husband also to be on board with this. When COVID began in March of 2020, I remember that first weird event. You remember your first Zoom experience? There was a bris, but it was on Zoom. I'm like, how do you do a bris on Zoom, right? So I was here and we were watching the bris, right? There was obviously a mohel there, but it was the first event on Zoom that I remembered. It was the bris of this baby boy. Who was the baby boy named after? He was named after the grandfather whose shiva it was that we met at, right? Another story that I walked into someone's house that one of my members wanted me to put up mezuzahs in someone's house, a family member. I went to put up mezuzahs, and I walk in, I see the wife is in tears. I'm like, what happened? Eventually she opens up, she tells me the story. They're trying to have a kid, and it's not going. I told her the same story. She also, together with her husband, they began the mikvah. And I think it was a few months ago, we did the Beit Medabing for the girl. Why am I telling you this? Is because creating a home is an opportunity to bring God into your life. Remember, the word for man and woman in Hebrew, ish and isha, has the name of God encoded in it. On his own, man has a yud. He's fire with a yud. Esh is fire with a yud. On her own, a woman is esh, fire with a hey. Esh with a hey, esh with a yud. Fire with a yud, fire with a hey. That's man and woman. But when you bring them together, what happens? You have fire with the yud and the hey. The yud and the hey creates the name of God. And that's why man and woman together are able to give birth. Because giving birth is creation ex nihilo. Giving birth is to create new life, is a new beginning. It's a new start. It's creation from nothing, essentially, right? You're making a baby, and that requires divine intervention. When man and woman come together, they are creating a place for God to reside. And that is the uniqueness of Eliezer. As the first marriage broker in the Torah, he was the one that as soon as he asks for a prayer for the shidduch, which represents a template of all future marriages, God doesn't wait for him to finish his prayer. But even before he finishes his prayer, he is answered. And that's how the Rebbe explains this amazing idea. It's a lot to think about in this beautiful concept, to think about our purpose in this world. Oded from Jerusalem, lovely to see you. Within a finite line, there is an infinite amount of points. This infinity exists within our finite lives. Interesting. Okay. Thank you, friend. So what I want to conclude here with, friends, is by saying the following. That it's the understanding or the focus on these three characters, personalities, whose prayers were answered immediately, or even before that, that we're exposed to a deeper truth in our lives, to realize what our purpose is in this world and what prayers God is looking for. If you're doing a selfish prayer, okay, that's one thing, fine. Maybe you'll get it sooner, maybe you'll get it later. But if you're praying for your purpose, which is to make this world holy, to bring the divine presence into this world, whether it's in King Solomon's space, in Moses's person, or in Eliezer's marriage, we're inspired to realize how important our relationships are. That our relationships are not just functional experiences that allow us to get a tax break because you file with joint income. And they're not just a better way to buy groceries, because if you buy for more people, it's more economical. They're actually opportunities to sanctify this world and to make this world a holy place. And the question we have to ask ourselves is your home a place where God is comfortable? Is your home a place where what's dominant is the yud and the hey of you and your spouse's name, bringing God into your home? Or what's dominant is if the name of God is understated, then what's left? Esh, which is fire. If the name of God is understated in your home, then what are you left with is fire. Fire is a loose cannon. Fire could build, fire could weld, fire could warm, but fire can easily destroy. So you got to be extremely careful. Magdalene, I bless you all. Hope, peace, life. Thank you. Okay, no war, no slave, just God willing. Very good. Anyway, so this is the message, guys, which I want to leave you with today. That when we look at Eliezer in the 6th Torah portion, we too are challenged with the question of Ayeka. Ayeka, which Adam was asked in the Garden of Eden, where are you? Where are you in the purpose for which you were sent to this world? How much have you achieved in creating this in this world a home for God? Have you managed to turn your home, your country club, your business, your bank account, your boardroom, your mind, and your heart as a home for God? Are you still struggling, or are you ready to play in the big leagues? L'chaim, let's make it happen.
Yeah,